In my previous Reacher video, I stated that I do believe that Alan Ritchson could play a great Batman in the DCU, but I'll be completely honest with you, after season 3 episode 6, I think that Alan Ritchson can play a great vigilante. It doesn't have to be Batman, it could be Punisher, it could be anybody else, but the main vigilante that Alan Ritchson could play is a vigilante that literally is great in the shadows, a vigilante that can sneak up on the would-be assailants and can incapacitate or defeat or even kill the would-be assailants in the dark. Now remember, Batman does not kill, and me personally, I do not like any type of Batman that kills in cold blood, even if it means to completely nullify and destroy the threat that is at hand. But the way that Alan Ritchson, aka Reacher, sneaks up behind the people that he is targeting in this episode, it screams Batman. Even though I'm not trying to compare Reacher killing people with Batman killing people, because like I just stated, I don't like Batman killing people, but man, when Reacher, he is taking out these thugs, he is taking out these mercenaries that were sent towards him to kill him. He is literally a vigilante. I think that before Alan Ritchson retires, he has to be hired by DC or Marvel. Now you're probably asking yourselves, yo big bro, why are you glazing Alan Ritchson / Reacher so much? Well, I have to explain it like this, because in episode 5 we left off that Reacher and Zachary Beck, they actually meet up with the main person, the main man that is controlling the entire operations, the main man that is also controlling the lives of Zachary and Richard Beck, and that is Xavier Quinn. Remember, Reacher, he recently thought that he killed Xavier Quinn, but he was actually shocked and bewildered to find out that Xavier Quinn did not die, and in fact he is still at large, and he is operating a big crime industry, a big crime enterprise that is transporting and manufacturing guns, and also is dealing in human trafficking, because we're seeing that Xavier Quinn actually has Teresa. And the way that they find out Xavier Quinn has Teresa is after Zachary and Reacher, they actually meet with Quinn, because Xavier Quinn, he is not happy after what happened. He is not happy that an ATF soldier, an ATF military soldier, was living under the premises of Zachary Beck, and this soldier was probably given intel back to her people, back to her colleagues. So remember, this soldier, Annette, she died, and the person that killed Annette was Polly, and with the help of Harley. But we're seeing that Xavier, he is basically interrogating Zachary. He is intimidating Zachary, and this is a theme that will be happening throughout this entire episode. But when Xavier, he spots Reacher, you would think that Xavier would easily shoot and kill Reacher on the spot. That's what I thought as well, but the thing is that doesn't happen, because Xavier, he actually has retrograde amnesia, and retrograde amnesia, you know, it can be caused by intense injury or by an intense disease. And remember, the intense injury that Xavier Quinn had was when he got shot point blank range by Reacher. So this is actually the reason why Xavier does not recognize Reacher. He just thinks Reacher right now is a lunkhead mercenary that was a part of the botched situation that caused Annette, the ATF soldier, to be a part of. But Xavier, he is expressing his displeasure, and he is telling Zachary that you need to set things straight. You need to do what you need to do right now. And now I am going to tell you, Zachary, that I am going to scrub your entire place clean. We are going to find anyone that has any involvement in reporting our businesses to the police or anyone else. And man, this is exactly what is about to happen, because after Xavier Quinn, he meets with a Russian mobster, the person that Xavier Quinn is actually looking up to, aka Xavier Quinn's boss, because you know, in the gang and criminal life, there is always a boss of the main boss. So this Russian mobster mobster is the big bad boss of Xavier Quinn, and this Russian mobster, he intimidates Xavier, and he tells Xavier, if anything like this happens ever again, you're the one that is going to have to worry. You're the one that is going to pay for what's about to happen. So Xavier, he panics. He now just becomes so paranoid, and he drives headfirst. He drives straight towards Zachary Beck's mansion. And when he drives to Zachary Beck's mansion, he goes there and he tells Zachary that, look, something just happened. We have been completely compromised. But before this, I have to talk about the relationship with Reacher and Richard, because when they go into town, they're just going to go shopping, and Reacher, he's there to protect Richard. We see that Reacher, he blows his cover, and he didn't mean to blow his cover, because when Reacher, he tells Richard that, look, I need to go and get this coffee, I'll be right back. Reacher, he goes and he secretly talks to Susan Duffy, but Susan, you know, throughout the entire season, we're seeing that Susan, she's actually really attracted to Reacher, but she just doesn't know how to express it. But in this moment, in this exact moment in time, we see that Susan, she passionately kisses Reacher, but she instantly regrets this decision, and she tells Reacher that this cannot ever happen again. But once this happens, we see that Richard, he actually stumbles upon what's happening right now. He sees the fact that Reacher is actually an informant. Reacher is possibly working with the feds. He is a part of the DEA. So Reacher, he needs to think fast, and he grabs Richard. They drive far away, and Reacher now basically intimidates, but also gives Richard a good advice by telling Richard that, look, I know that I am a DEA agent. I never lied to you. I just didn't tell you the entire full story. But I am the only person that is capable of removing the stronghold that Xavier Quinn has on you and your dad and your entire enterprise, your entire estate. I am the only person that can guarantee that your dad won't go to jail, but your dad will also not be killed as well. And I am the only person that will guarantee that you also will not be killed as well. So once this happens, we see that Reacher and Richard, they now drive back to the mansion, and we see that Richard, you know, he is visibly upset. But when the dad Zachary questions Richard about what happens, Richard just tells Zachary that, oh, you know, it's nothing. Reacher just helped me to defeat some bullies. And after this happens, we see the moment where Xavier Quinn, he drives straight to the mansion, and he is questioning everybody. He is leaving nothing unturned. He is having all of his men to go into separate locations in the house to find anything that could indicate any type of activity working with the feds. But as this is going on, we actually see another scene with Neagley, and Neagley, she is just minding her business. She is just chilling at her office. But remember, Xavier Quinn, the paranoid weirdo that he is, he sends mercenaries to her location so that he can have her killed. But this is easily foiled because Neagley, she is a badass in my honest opinion. She easily dispatches the two mercenaries that were out to kill her. And I really like this scene when she already killed one of the mercenary, but the other mercenary, he is dying by the fridge, and he is begging, he is pleading to Neagley to call the ambulance, to call 911. But Neagley, she is just biding her time. She is not caring about the dude that was just about to kill her. So she now tells this mercenary that, okay, fine, since you're whining so much, I'll call the ambulance, I'll call 911. That she does call 911, but she tells this dude that, yeah, 911, they're about to arrive in 5 minutes, but you only got 1 minute to survive, so bye-bye. I really like that moment. But this moment shows that Xavier Quinn is trying his hardest to kill anyone that is associated with the investigation of his enterprise. So now we reach back to the mansion, and Xavier, he knows something is up, and he questions Zachary about Reacher's occupation. He questions him, and once he gets the full answer from Zachary, Zachary tells Xavier that, yeah, Reacher was a former, I forgot the real term, but I'll just say a former DEA agent. I think it's RFA or something like that. But once Xavier Quinn hears that, he tells everyone, you need to find Reacher right now. You have to go and find him right now. But Reacher is already running on foot. And when Reacher, he's running on foot, he's starting to get chased by Polly, by Harley, and the other mercenaries. But I think Harley stays back. But once Reacher, he's running, he now breaks into a big truck and he's driving away. We see that the mercenaries are following Reachers. It is a crazy scene. There is a lot of gunfire, a lot of gunshots. The mercenaries are using high-grade military equipment, and it is crazy, man. And Reacher, at first, he eventually succeeds in going away, but we see that the mercenaries, they are not stopping. They are actually using ATVs. They are not stopping. They are trying their hardest to kill Reacher at the behest of Xavier Quinn. So this is the scene that I'm talking about, that Reacher really becomes a vigilante, because Reacher in this scene, he uses the shadows to his advantage. He uses the trees, he uses the night, and he uses every single dark crevice, every single dark corners that are located in this forest, because once the mercenaries reach Reacher's location, we see that Reacher, he successfully shoots the front lights of the ATVs. That once he does that, that's when we see the vigilanteism of Reacher really expose himself, because Reacher, he paints his entire face with mud so that he can camouflage himself, and he sneaks up behind almost every single mercenary. The first mercenary that he sneaks up, he grabs his mouth and he now basically snaps his neck by putting him in a front rear chokehold. Then after that, Reacher, he now grabs a knife and he now sneaks up behind another mercenary, and before the mercenary can even say anything, he puts his hand over the mercenary's mouth and he stabs the mercenary with that knife in the neck. Then the third mercenary that he kills, he sneaks up behind the mercenary and he grabs a rope and he ties it around the neck of the third mercenary. But Reacher, he actually successfully tied this rope to one of the ATVs, and this ended up killing this mercenary. So Reacher successfully ran away, and when he ran away, he now went into this laundromat and then he now got his clothes changed, he got his face cleaned. But Polly was actually so close in following Reacher, but Reacher was so smart to tell the owners of the laundromat to turn off all your lights. So after that happens, we see that Polly, he reaches back to Xavier and he tells Xavier the horrible news that Reacher has escaped. So Xavier, he's mad, he wants to take out his anger on someone. Then he now picks Richard Beck. He picks Richard and Zachary Beck, and there is something that I was hearing and I witnessed that is a Diddy moment, because when they are torturing Richard and Zachary Beck, Xavier tells Richard that you really do not want Polly to bend you over the table and do the unthinkable. I'm thinking to myself that, yo, Polly, are you Diddy's disciple? Are you a part of the Diddy empire? Because if what I just heard is true, then Xavier and Polly, they are sick motherfuckers, man, and that is disgusting. So it makes sense why they would actually have Teresa in his possession. And the reason why I'm bringing up Teresa is because Susan, Duffy, and Reacher, they realize that the dress that Xavier Quinn has is for Teresa, and Teresa actually has been held captive by Xavier Quinn this entire time. But back to the Richard situation, Xavier, he forces Richard to play Russian roulette. At first, Richard was trying to not do it. He even pointed the gun at Xavier, but Xavier is too intimidating for Richard. So this causes Richard to start to play Russian roulette, and it was a grueling game to see Zachary Beck, the dad of Richard, possibly witness his son's death right in front of his face, man. Xavier Quinn is Diddy's disciple. Polly is Diddy himself. So after this happens, happens, we see that Susan and Reacher, they reach back with each other, and then Reacher and Susan, they are actually discussing about the whereabouts of Teresa. They go to this dress shop that one of the mercenaries, they went to that same dress shop to get a dress for Teresa, but after that didn't work, they see that, wait, they can actually connect the dots. So then Reacher, he now actually concludes that the main place that Teresa was being held at was at this boat, and this boat is actually docked away, far away from the land. So Susan and Reacher, they now swim to this boat, and once they swim to this boat, they see some signs that someone was being held captive there, and they actually conclude that was Teresa. But as this is going on, we see that Harley, he is actually making his way to this boat because he was the main person that was tasked to oversee Teresa in this boat. But once this happens, we see that Reacher and Susan set up a trap for Harley. They beat the shit out of Harley, and they try to make Harley confess to what happens, but Harley is hard-headed at first. But Reacher, he actually purposely sets the entire boat on fire. They now simultaneously torture Harley by having Reacher, he uses this long weapon, he strikes it at the foot of Harley, and this impales Harley's foot. So this causes Harley to spill the beans, and Harley tells Reacher and Susan everything. He tells Susan and Reacher that, look, yes, I was the main person that was holding her captive here, but Xavier got so paranoid, he took Teresa to a location that I don't know, nobody knows. So as this happens, we see that Susan and Reacher, they have a new lead, but they actually let Harley to die at this boat, man, and they let Harley die, and that was a good death because Harley is one of Diddy's disciple if he is actually partaking in human trafficking, bro. But man, that's how the episode ends, and I'll be honest with you, man, seeing the vigilantism that Alan Ritchson was portraying as Reacher was crazy. He really was menacing, man. Remember, I do not like a Batman that kills or uses guns and he is doing premeditated murder, but I do like a Batman that uses the shadows to his abilities, that uses the dark to his abilities in defeating criminals. And this is how Punisher and Daredevil and any other superhero that's a vigilante that uses the night to his or her disposal, and that is basically how Reacher is acting in this episode, man. So DCU or MCU, y'all gotta call this, man. Y'all gotta call Alan Ritchson, man. But that's the end of the video. Peace.